And before you sit, please turn and greet your neighbor.
This is a time in our service when we share with one another what joys and sorrows we may be carrying. If you would like to come forward and light a candle, tell us who you are if you choose, and share what you're carrying in your heart, we would be glad to hear you.
Good morning. My name is Anne, and this candle is for you. Getting back here, it has been a significant part of my recovery, and it's also a thank you for the meals and the cards and the emails and the food that you sent, it turned out to be so important to my healing. For those of you that don't know, it was a little crazy. I drove myself to the ER on the coldest night of our cold snap, where they decided it was time to remove a appendix that actually went kind of kablooey in my body because they couldn't find it. And they patched me up, and a few days later I came home. So thank goodness for great medical care, for great antibiotics, and thank you for you. I'm so very grateful.
My name is Ann, too, as most of you know, and there's another one here. Ann's all over the place. I'm staying away from Jane because we're not supposed to make announcements, but I would like to make one. To celebrate the joy of yesterday as well, Odette and I were just grooving during the clothing swap yesterday on how much fun that is to not have an agenda or a meeting or something, just enjoy each other. But we do have lots of stuff for you guys to look at during coffee hour, so come and look. And if you get something new, wear it next week.
Good morning, I'm April. I think a week ago I stood before you lighting a joy of sorrow and concern for my friend Cadiz, who had been recovering from a heart transplant and had fluid around his heart. I'm happy to light a candle of joy today. He's back home with his wife and 3 children, and he's doing well.
Hi, I'm Wendy, and I lit a candle for our friend Ellie Lockwood. She sells the Hannaford gift cards. She's suffering from COVID right now and has chest issues anyway, so let's send her some healing energy so she's back with us soon, back at the table and we're enjoying her company once again.
Good morning, I'm Betsy, and I have lit a candle of gratitude this morning with our warm spring-like day has really set me in motion for spring, and Donna and I have started walking the beach. And yesterday I was just like always in awe at the beach and our big blue planet here, but I was just feeling so much gratitude living in a place that is so beautiful, with a community that is so beautiful, in spite or because of, I was just so touched, given all the awfulness in the world, that I have this in my backyard to appreciate and enjoy.
This is our final candle. We light it to honor those things that remain in our hearts that are unspoken, whether they be joys or sorrows. And we ask you to carry what you've heard here today with you as you go forward through your week.
I'd like to invite any children that are with us, children of any age from 2 to 99, who would like to join me on the stairs as we share a sort of a book about Lent. I had trouble finding a book about Lent for children, but what I found was a book called The Easter Egg. And I know you can't see it very well there in the back, but it has beautiful illustrations by Jan Brett. And this is about a group of bunny rabbits that are preparing for Easter, which is one of the definitions of Lent. So honestly, I wish you could see these illustrations. They're just really gorgeous. Okay. Cheer up, spring is here. Time to start on my first ever Easter egg, Hoppy said. Each year, the bunny who decorated the winning egg got to help the Easter rabbit hide eggs on Easter morning. Hoppy had been dreaming about being that bunny all year long, and now it was time to get started. Everywhere Hoppy looked, rabbits were working on dazzling eggs. I need an amazing idea, he thought. Hoppy spotted Flora Bunny planting spring wildflowers on her eggs. Easter Rabbit will love those colorful flowers, he thought, and he started picking flowers for his egg. Here's a basket for your flowers, Hoppy, said Flora. Chop, chop, scrape, scrape. Hoppy spied Buster Birch carving a magnificent wooden egg. I wish I had some wood for my egg, he wished out loud. Here you go, Hoppy, Buster Birch said, and he put a smooth, round piece of wood in Hoppy's basket. Thank you, Buster, Hoppy said. Hoppy was hopping along when the smell of sweetness led him out of the woods and straight to the chocolate egg Aunt Sassafras was decorating with creamy frosting, squiggles, and bows. I think that would be my favorite egg. Hello, Hoppy, she said, and put some chocolate squares in his basket for him. Hippity hop, Hoppy exclaimed. I'll make the Easter rabbit a chocolate egg so sweet it will make his whiskers tingle. Then Hoppy saw Granny Rainey decorating one of her fabulous story eggs. First, she traced a design on the egg with a special tool. Then she dipped the egg in pots of yellow, green, orange, and red, adding to the design each time. Hoppy could not believe his eyes. I'll never make an egg that beautiful, he said. But Granny smiled and said, try. And she gave him one of her special tools. So Hoppy hopped past Hans Vanderrabbit's garden when he spotted an extraordinary egg. The Easter rabbit, Hans was painting a portrait of the Easter rabbit so real that it looked alive. Fantastic, Hoppy exclaimed. Thank you, Hoppy, Hans said. Why don't you make a painting on your egg? And he gave Hoppy pots of paint and a fine brush. As Hoppy bounced along, a loud boing nearly knocked him off his feet. It was a whirling, twirling mechanical egg. Would you like to make one? Roberto asked. Hoppy tried hard, but the harder he tried, the more parts and pieces piled up around him. Thank you, Roberto, he sighed, but I think I better make the egg that's right for me. Hoppy hopped back into the woods and lay down under a tall tree to think. Making a beautiful egg is harder than I imagined, he thought. I guess I don't have to win, but maybe I should just make an egg that I'm proud of. Suddenly, the woods rang with a squawking of birds sounding an alarm. Mother Robin swooped down, calling wildly as if she couldn't decide where to go. An egg had tumbled out of Mother Robin's nest. Inside the perfect blue egg was a baby robin that needed its mother to keep it warm until it hatched. Hoppy knew what he had to do. He sat down carefully and covered the blue egg with his soft, warm fur. I'll take care of you the best I can, he whispered. Relieved, Mother Robin chirped and settled down on her other 2 eggs. Hoppy never left that robin's egg. If it was sunny and warm, he carefully turned the egg in its nest of moss. If it was rainy and cold, he kept the egg covered and dry. At night, wild animals passed by. Hoppy crouched down and stayed hidden in the ferns. Often, he heard strange noises coming from above, but Hoppy didn't run away. Every day, the other rabbits worked on their eggs. Tadpoles turned into frogs, and buds swelled into leaves, and Easter came closer and closer. Finally, it was time for the rabbits to take their eggs to the glen. They'd forgotten all about Hoppy, who was quietly sitting on the blue egg under the tall tree in the woods. Early the next morning, the rabbits waited for the Easter rabbit. Suddenly, a beautiful wagon rolled toward them out of the mist and stopped. The Easter bunny stepped down from the wagon and admired the decorated eggs one by one. You have brought me the most beautiful eggs in the world, but a very special one is not here. The rabbits were puzzled. Whose egg would it be? Fill my wagon with your wonderful eggs, he said, and when I return, I'll show it to you. And he disappeared into the woods. He came back with Hoppy, looking somewhat scruffy and bedraggled. Hoppy has an amazing egg to be proud of, the Easter rabbit told them. He has kept Mother Robin's egg warm and safe until her baby bird hatched and she could take care of it. The Easter rabbit placed the empty blue shell in the place of honor atop the wagon. Now they were ready to go. The rabbits cheered for the egg that has surprised them all. "It's our best Easter ever," they shouted. Then the brave little bunny and the Easter rabbit rode off together to hide the eggs for the boys and girls to find on Easter morning. And I've got to show you this one picture, which I hope you can see. Jane. Thank you. And now please stand and join us in singing hymn number 298.
Our reading this morning is called The Imprint of Love. It was written by Laura Horton Ludwig. Spirit of love and life, light within and without, mystery from which we have all emerged, within which we live and die. Be with us now as we allow ourselves to drop into the silence and stillness at the center of our being. As people of faith, we seek to live in a spirit of love, a spirit of community, justice, and peace. And yet, in so many corners of the world, both far and near, we see divisiveness and hate. If we look deep within ourselves, perhaps we will even find those shadow energies there too. We struggle to respond to the outer world and our inner dramas in ways that manifest love. At times, we may fear that love will not be strong enough. At times, we may question whether love really is at the root of all things in this world with so much struggle and suffering and discord. We may struggle to hold on to our faith in love, knowing that if all things come from the one source we proclaim, that source must somehow hold hate as well as love, violence as well as peace, evil as well as good. This is the mystery within which we live and die. These are the questions that haunt our days and nights, and yet we are not without hope. Our struggles and our questions testify to our longing for peace, for love. Our very longings are born out of that mystery we dare to address as spirit of life and love. In the stillness and silence of our own heart, we read the imprint of love created not by our own will, but planted there for us to discover. By what or whom we cannot know, and yet it is there. A clue, a talisman, a beacon, a light within. May it keep hope alive even as we dwell in mystery. May it guide us all as we seek to act wisely and well. May it help us to be vessels of compassion for one another and for our world. Amen.
Friday was Random Acts of Kindness Day. I don't know if anybody knew that, but it absolutely tickled the people at the rehab and residence where I do my little service each Friday. And they decided that even if you're in a nursing home, you can say a kind word or something to somebody, and they accepted the challenge. So I was at Starbucks, and I thought, I'm going to pay for the coffee for the person behind me in the drive-through line. I thought, people have done that for me on occasion, and it's always a lovely surprise. So when I got to the window, I asked, how much is the car behind me? And the woman said, $65. And I said, well, please tell them to have a nice day. That was a bit much. So, anyway, that's funny. So, what in the world does Lent mean for Unitarian Universalists? Well, the UUA describes Lent this way. In the Christian tradition, Lent is a 40-day period before Easter. And here's something I didn't know. Sundays are skipped in counting the 40 days because Sundays commemorate the resurrection of Jesus. I did not know that. Lent begins on Ash Wednesday, which is this coming Wednesday, marking the beginning of Lent, which in the tradition is intended to be a time of self-denial, moderation, fasting, and forsaking of sinful activities and habits. I was surprised to see the word sinful from the UUA because we don't all believe in sin anymore. That one kind of surprised me. And the UUA says the 3 pillars of Lent are prayer, fasting, and giving. So when I was doing the research for this sermon, as I do, or with this reflection, I should say, I'll often read other sermons. And while I was doing the research, I came across a blog. And I can't even give the author credit because her name is listed only as Sarah, The Wanderings and Wonderings of a Somewhat UU Woman Looking for a Better World. And I thank her for her inspiration, and I'll be using some of her words. And as I mentioned, Lent starts next Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, the day after Mardi Gras. And millions of folks around the world are participating in the traditional observance. Foreheads marked with ash. The first time I saw that was when I lived in New York. I got on the subway to go to work, and I saw a number of people with smudges on their foreheads. Had no idea what that was. And Irish Catholic women that I worked with, who also had the smudge, explained that it's just a reminder of ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But folks are giving up alcohol, changing their diets, avoiding chocolate, no restaurant lunches, and Sarah says that even one UU blogger is giving up Unitarian Universalism for the 40 days between Ash Wednesday and Easter. So despite being raised in the Evangelical United Brethren Christian Church, the concept of giving up something for Lent didn't occur to me until grammar school and my introduction to a large Irish Catholic Cleary family from our neighborhood. A whole bunch of kids who all had red hair, and they attended St. Peter's Catholic School instead of our public school. I was vaguely familiar with Ash Wednesday and all of Holy Week, but Easter was always really the main attraction. The idea of setting something aside for these 40 days between Ash Wednesday and Easter was new to me, and in a burst of religious zeal, I told my mother that I was going to give up chocolate for Lent. Well, my mom patiently explained to me that Lent was about more than just giving up a much-loved treat. She said giving up something was okay and admirable, but taking on a new endeavor, like maybe a positive habit, might be considered just as worthy a Lenten commitment for the season. Perhaps she suggested that I try to be more patient, always a challenge for me. I told her I would start by giving up chocolate, and then I'd see if I wanted to take it further at some future Lenten season. She just smiled. Sarah the blogger says, at the height of my Catholic years, I made other attempts to touch the holy and stay in closer touch with my faith. In college, I attended daily Mass more often, though never daily, prayed more, read my Bible more. She said, I can't say I developed any new permanent spiritual habits during those Lenten seasons, but I can say I thought more about my faith. Perhaps the clearest way to put it was that I lived a little bit closer to what I said I believed. And as I moved away from the United Brethren, I went through the Episcopal Church, the UCC, to no church for a while, to First Parish in Portland, and then here at our church in Saco. My Lenten and Easter practices kind of gradually dropped away. Ash Wednesday goes largely unmentioned here, although it originates from one of the many traditions from which we UUs draw our understanding of the world. And with so many sources from which to find truth, it's no wonder that Lent doesn't always get addressed. But perhaps it should. A time of repentance and turning thoughts to right relations with others is a theme of many religions. Lent shares a focus on atonement with Yom Kippur, the Jewish New Year, where fasting and prayer accompany atonement to God and others. The Islamic Ramadan, a month of fasting by day with time to reflect spiritually, pray, and do works of charity. Atonement is part of Ramadan, but the main focus is on a right relationship with God. Eastern religions prescribe atonement and repairing relationships too. Hindu teachings address atonement and penance rituals and practices, including charity and fasting. Buddhists focus on atonement to others and forgiveness of others with a focus on loving kindness and compassion. If we claim to take our sources as routes of truth, we'd be remiss to ignore the themes of these religions' opportunities to do both better inner and outer work. So Sarah sees two paths for UUs in Lent, and this really resonated with me. The first follows the traditional fasting paths. She says, consider using Lent to rid yourself of a bad habit. 6 weeks without chocolate, processed foods, coffee, I don't know about that one. Multitasking while eating, multiple hours in front of the computer or TV could make for long-term changes in someone's life, or maybe not. But that time away from something desired does remind us that we can take more control of our minds than we often think we can. Our minds are slippery things, and the act of stopping a habitual action over and over can be a step to a bit more mastery of our ever-wandering thoughts. The second path looks outward as well as inward, and this is where I'm going for Lent. It could bring us out of ourselves into deeper connection to the world. Perhaps this season can offer a chance to reflect about and then act on the principles that we hold true. The 7 principles, and I'm actually going to include the pending 8th principle as well, offer great guidelines for living in this world and are well worth 40 days of consideration and conscientious action. I know that there are folks here who have talked with Lori and talked with me about concentrating a little more at times on our principles. So let's do that. Here's a reminder, the list of what we affirm and promote. The inherent worth and dignity of every person. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. A free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The right of conscience and use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. And the 8th principle, journeying toward a spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. And that is all from the UUA. So what would this second practice look like? Think of Ben Franklin's 13 virtues. If you're not familiar with those, Ben Franklin listed 13 virtues that he thought if he could master them, it would make him a better person, make him a better man. Franklin didn't try to address all 13 at once, but he took one per week on which he focused his thoughts and actions. He admits he often fell short, but he continued to try. 7 principles in 6 weeks provides 6 days per principle. 6 days to reflect on a particular principle and to watch one's thoughts and actions during this time, working to act in the world in ways more in concert with the values of our faith. So how do I respond to Lent? I am going to take the second path, I said, and I invite you to do the same. Reflection on each principle in turn with a focus on acting on each principle in the world. I will likely stumble along the way, but that's okay. There's a reason why seasons of atonement return year after year. We have short memories and revert easily to old, comfortable ways. Perhaps, though, we'll find a bit more peace. Perhaps we'll be able to touch each other in the world a bit more softly along the way. And I'll say, blessed be, and amen. Whoops. I think we're ready for the offering.
When we gather together as a community, we bring the gifts of ourselves, our hearts and spirits, our time and energy, our talents and skills to support the work of this church here within our walls and out in the larger community. We also bring our gift of generosity, giving of what we have so that the work of this church may continue. As always, half of our offering today will be sent out into the larger community. And, okay, thank you. Trying to. It will be shared with the Maine Association of New Americans. If you are watching from home on YouTube, donations may be made by clicking the PayPal link in the video description, or checks may be mailed to UUCSB, 60 School Street, Saco. Please be generous as the ushers wait upon you with this morning's offering.
And please remain standing as we extinguish the chalice. As we release this flame from its faithful service today, we allow the spark in each of us to burn on, to warm our compassion, to fire our delight, to light our paths today, tomorrow, and always. And please join me in singing hymn number 331, one of my personal favorites, Life is the Greatest Gift of All. And our closing words today, please be seated, yes. Our closing words today are from Frederick E. Gillis. May the love that overcomes all differences, that heals all wounds, that puts flight to all fears, that reconciles all of us who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always. Amen. And please remain seated for the postlude.